Development and Accessibility, and Dr. A.G.V. Narayan sir from academia will offer research and insight on fostering the inclusivity in education and skill development. Let the audience know that their participation is valued. And at the end of the session, we have a question and answer forum which is open to express your views and contribute to the seminar. So after this brief introduction to the panel, let me just go with the basic grassroots question I would like to ask or pose on this discussion. What is your vision of society where women and person with disability thrive equally in all aspects of life? Let me just start with Nikama.
Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi. Okay, all of you dignitaries and my colleagues in the dais. This question is very important. As far as I understand it and our work, through the work that we understand it, is that the vision, if you say, or that of inclusivity, I think I take it from the Constitution. The Constitution is the most inclusive document, and it includes equality, it includes liberty, it includes fraternity, it includes all the tenets of a holistic society. If any society does not have or does not follow any of the values of the Constitution, we are lost. We are not going to go in for any kind of development. So one of the crucial things is how do we recognize the Constitution as an important pillar of inclusion. It has all the values written into it, and it is not just written there. It is taken in from all the experiences, all the struggles, all the struggles for a independent society. But one factor that is missing there is that how many of you know that there were 15 women who sat in the Constituent Assembly while the Constitution was being framed? So today I would like to say it is not history we need to know. We need to know her story. And that story, her story is missing from most of our education as well as most of our institutions and most of us among ourselves too. So the whole issue is that of how do we bring about a society where this inclusion can take place. And the inclusion meaning not just economic as somebody said, it's not just economic. Mostly it is about how do we bring about a social democracy. Today we have a political democracy. That is by the right to vote, by the fact that the constitution is there, by the fact that we can all speak what we want, that's also getting curbed, by the fact that we can have movements, we can associate, we can have the right to any worship, our own faith, so our own rights are embodied in the constitution. But the thing is not what is written there. The thing is how is it being included in our daily life, in our daily practice. And one of the things that we notice is, especially when it comes to social inclusion. Economic inclusion, of course, we know how women are left out, how caste, there's an intersectionality of caste, class and gender that we have to look at when we talk of inclusion. When we talk about inclusion, economic inclusion, it is very clear how caste groups are left out, how class is left out, how certain groups of women are left out, and especially focusing on the disabled sections of society. Disabled including not the disability that is not there, and ability that is there, but that is not recognized. So the question is, how do we term all this? And the fact that inclusion, in economic inclusion also, we have fought for, globalization has happened, market has changed, so there is some levels of economic inclusion. But social inclusion, very sad to say, it is in our genes, exclusion. Social exclusion is in our genes, in our DNA. Because we all carry with us caste notions. Caste notions of exclusion, of high and low, of purity and pollution, of the division between mental and physical division of labor. Those who work with the hands are not respected. Those who work with the head are looked upon. Those who are considered impure are the women because they go through normal monthly periods. So impurity is linked to your sexuality. So that is where that impurity, purity and pollution works. And some were saying the other day, oh in the city, a policewoman sitting next to me in the bus, oh in the city there's no caste, oh in the city there's no exclusion. I told her very well from our experiences, we are seeing it every day. Our women are seeing it every day. Where Dalit women are not allowed to enter the kitchen, where we work with domestic workers, where pure drinking water is not given, where they clean the toilets but they're not allowed to use the toilets. Again, fear of pollution. Again, in whom you recruit, whom you don't, there is pollution. Again, in housing societies, there is pollution. There are some housing societies that will not give house to from other sections. So this othering that we do, no? And if you see the exclusion in terms of the facilities that we have in governance, I mean, I'm seeing, ma'am, I do not know your name, but I'm seeing it every day. In the bus, there are ramps attached to the bus, but they will not release it so that people can have a better access. Accessibility is exclusion here. Accessibility is excluded for many groups of people. Accessibility to midday meals, accessibility to bathrooms, toilets, accessibility to public places, accessibility for women to better transport, to safe transport. So this is an important issue in inclusion. And the third part of inclusion is what I would like to say about, which is which should be incorporated in all our lives, is that all of us carry this caste attitude. All of us are castes. I don't say no, including me, because this has been given to us from childhood, from what is called culture, from what is called this is the way you have to look at society. You know, this is given to us. So I would add one more thing: if society has to be much more inclusive, not just a jargon. The jargon of inclusivity has come today's market. In the years before globalization, it was not there. Today, as it's getting worse and worse, it is being brought in as a jargon where people are saying we include Dalits, we include people with disabilities, we include women. I mean, what inclusion? It's our right. It's not anyone's favor that we are asking. It's our right to be included. And so, therefore, the whole issue is related to how can we respect people? Can we respect? Can we not use the term other? Can we, in colleges, institutions, in all these functions, have the singing of all religions? Have the invocation song of all religions? Or not have an invocation song? Can we, in the government institutions, like the courts here, or even the police stations, why should there be pictures of God? Governance is a public issue. It's not a private issue of any one community. So inclusion basically means respect. And if we learn that respect from early childhood, respect of everyone, including animals, including that of the environment, then we will go a long way.
So you mean to say that inclusion is there in policy, not in the society?
Inclusion is not even a policy because there's no reservation for women still. There's no, if you see the number of women MLAs and women MPs in today's decision making, there are none. There's just 4 women in parliament. You know, decision making, that is where we are lost. When we are included, on my side, we are an equal. That is not what we want. We want an inclusion in decision making. After all, in the family, when things go right, they say the woman is not taking the decision. The man is taking the decision. When things go wrong, they'll say the woman took the decision. When we have examples of children smoking. See, a young boy started to smoke, and who's scolded for that? The woman. So the woman turns around and should say that I don't smoke. You know, that child is seeing you smoking and consider it a good habit. But even for that, we are to blame. So the issue is that how do you look at, how do you value? Basically, you're devalued in society. So how do you value and how do you give space for decision?
That's really nice. Now, may I know views about Lalita ma'am?
From the corporate sector, I would like to outline a few aspects here. First and foremost, when we talk about diversity, I think sir mentioned in his keynote address also, diversity is beyond gender. Okay, this is something what we look at in the corporate world. While initially we started this concept of diversity, stating that we should recruit more women in the organization, which is very important. At the same time, we also started looking at different aspects of diversity, like internationalities, regions, because if you look at India as such a vast country, and a North Indian, a South Indian, or a person from East, and then have different cultures, right? These also are found into diversity. So God focuses on all these aspects, thereby building policies around that. So when we say diversity and inclusion, it's inclusion of people from any part of the country, give make proper accommodation for them, include them into your organization to open up. That's what is important. Just on a lighter note, I would like to say that about 4 decades back, Bosch, at least 10 years back, Bosch was called as MICO. Many people at least go back their parents and ask them, because it's 100-year-old organization in India. It was initially started as MICO, as Mother Bosch. Then the name transition only in 2008 to Bosch. That time MICO meant what? MICO Iyer company. So it was, sorry, Madras Iyer company, MICO. So what happened was there were lots of people in the management who belonged to the Iyengar clan. No offense to that clan, but it's just that the tendency was to recruit and give opportunities only for those kind of people who are coming from a certain clan. Now we moved away from that. By embracing diversity, we have people from across the globe, from across the countries. Now, my vision, if you ask me from a corporate perspective, what do you mean by setting a vision for your company? I would say the day an individual, based on his or her potential and ability, is welcomed and given an opportunity for equal employment, right? Today we have an issue. If it's women, we have challenges in terms of employment. The priority is just given to the male colleagues, or rather the people from their hometown. This is something which we want to get rid of. The day that we achieve a status wherein an individual, regardless of gender or ability, who has equal access to education, employment, and leadership opportunities. That is what is very important. And it should happen in such a way that a person can pursue this as aspirations without any constraints today, which we have, like systemic constraints are there in terms of education or even calling them for interview. What happens is that the bias in the organization, which we are constantly working on, unless and until you educate the hiring managers or the talent acquisition team in the human resources department, there is a set bias, maybe it's the back of their mind, not that they do it intentionally, that they would always want to, look at male candidates first. So what we try to do is we try to push some sort of a policy saying that when you are asking for CVs, ensure that at least 30 to 40% female associate CVs are there before you will proceed for the first round of filtration. Otherwise, don't do it. This is what we try to do. It's a forced way of doing it, but we don't see any alternative to push this. So it starts with that. We have to, educate people to do this. Why do they have biases? That it's also a two-way process. Let's not just blame only the corporate for not hiring females or hiring the people with physical abilities. Now, many times, many organizations are dependent on the norms or acts that are released by the government. Although internally they might want to do something for the society, but there are other priorities for them, so they don't take this, including you watch, for example, most of our policies are governed by the government acts. What we do is we go a little more beyond that to add more duties, that part of the act, to make it more inclusive, to have everybody in the organization. So many organizations should pick up these things, and the day that the society is ready to treat all women, male colleagues alike, okay, and not separate them, and people with physical abilities, that they can get access to be it work or employment or healthcare on the basis of their ability and potential. That's the day this place has reached the desired goal.
That's very nice to hear the initiative of motion. That's good to hear. Now, let us move to Narayan sir. You know his view about, from academic sector.
Yeah, in fact, your question is on how do we visualize, right? How do we visualize? Yeah, that's right. See, I would like to look for a world in which this inclusivity happens without any legislations. I would like to put a couple of examples. Legislation number one talks about independent women director in the corporate boards. In fact, government has come out with a mandate for all the publicly listed companies. They are supposed to have minimum one women director in their board. Are we complying with? Question mark. Question mark. Even NSC listed companies, they don't have women in their board. So this is legislation number one. Legislation number two with reference to PWD, persons with a disability. Of course, this is not a mandate for all the corporates, if I'm right, but the government has come out with a mandate exclusively for PSUs, public sector undertakings. So they are supposed to reserve a minimum of 4% workforce to be employed from this particular community. But again, some of the PSUs they couldn't adhere to it. Okay. So this is what is bothering us. In fact, we have come to a stage where we need to get something done through the legislation. And even if the legislation comes into effect, people don't give regards to that. So probably we may need to move to a situation where inclusivity happens without legislation. That's what I believe.
That was really a very good view, sir. It should happen without being made feel for a sector or a segment that they are treated special or different. That's absolutely very nice approach. Now, let me just ask Geeta ma'am. Ma'am, how the key challenges women faces, okay, in the society, especially when it comes to economic equality, social equality, or power or leadership equality? How is what challenges are faced by the women to get the equality in social status, economic status, or leadership status?
Here I'm talking of women, not just all women, but there are binaries of women. And in this, I also include the transgender, trans people also. Whenever we talk of women, we talk of women as a sexual gender, then we have to include the binaries, that is transgender, trans people. Now, the challenges are first, I'll talk about the challenges as women itself. The challenges start from the beginning, whether in society, whether it's for anyone, for all women. Right from the beginning of being valued as a girl, as a member of the society, as a citizen. And this devaluation of the woman starts from home. And we are still seeing, we still have a lot of, especially in Karnataka also, a lot of feticide, sex determination, doing away with the girls at birth. Technology has come in, it's being misused for this. So therefore, this is the biggest challenge to be alive. The next challenge is after you're alive, after you're a girl born in this society, is to be respected as a girl, as an independent person, not as somebody's mother, wife, daughter, like I was just telling, ma'am, that we need to be respected for what we are. So the biggest challenge is to be respected as a woman, as a human, I would say, as a human being. So that is one of the challenges. The other challenges are, of course, we all know. If you read the papers, if you read or you go to society at the grassroots level, we all know the challenges are there of education, where there's a discrimination in education, where girls' education is stopped when they reach the age of puberty sometimes. And I'm talking not of the cities, I'm talking of all of India. In some of our areas, it's still happening, where education is stopped because there's no money. So then the boy child is preferred that he continues his education because still the notion exists that the boy when he grows up, he will look after his parents, which is the rubbish notion. The boy when he grows up will look after his parents, so let us invest in the boy. So therefore, this is still there in many sections. Of course, it's a lot changed. Today, all our mothers are concentrating on giving their girls education because they know the value of that. They say that we were not educated, it is time that our girls get the chance. So there are mothers like that. But there is also the rest of society that says, I think after all she has to get married and do housework. After all, what else has she to do? What's the use of her studying? So there is all this around. So the challenge is that of going through all these values that are inflicted on her as to how a girl should behave, how a woman should behave. After puberty comes the biggest challenge. I always say that girls get disempowered after puberty. Because after puberty, the notions of how a girl should behave, how she should sit, where she should go, where she should not go, how she should dress. I mean, all these impositions start. So that is our challenge of freedom, of the ability to think what I want. The course is chosen, like engineering. Okay, I'm happy to see some girls, engineering colleges, medical colleges. Of course, there are much more women today, but not enough women from the local strata, from the ground, from the Dalits, and I've not seen it so much increasing. So that is the challenge of getting education, then of retaining yourself in education. Because as we know in all our communities, water is an issue, staying survival is an issue. So as long as survival is an issue, how can you go for education? Once you go for education, paying the increasing fees is an issue. Every year this month, March onwards, our women start. From where can we get the money? Now this year the school which was charging 20,000 or 30,000, and it's not big business schools. It is an ordinary ground-to-gate school. But education has become a business. Education has become costly. So they start searching for loans. Where do they go? They go only to the money lenders cutting them every day. They are in debt all the time. So that's one of the biggest challenges is to survive. Is to survive as women because women take on unfortunately the biggest burdens. The man doesn't bother. Once he goes outside the house, he considers himself an independent being. He doesn't have a family, he doesn't have anything. When the COVID happened, many of us, all of us had to stay at home, but not the women, domestic workers, they had to go to work. But yet they were called the virus. Okay, so when they started to stay at home, and all were forced to lock down, so husband and wife, and I heard this among many middle class families also, many middle class women also. Why? Why is this man at home? Whole day the work increases. What I used to go, he used to go in the morning and come back in the evening. I used to have my little space. I would eat, I would sleep, I would watch TV, or I would go where I want. I mean, I was more freer. Now this man is 24 hours, children are 24 hours at home. Where is the space for me? This was a comment that during the so that's what I'm saying is that space that is there needed for a woman to grow, for a woman to get herself educated, for a woman to be involved in discipline. In many homes, the girl's marriage is set still. Still, and I have many middle class cases with me. And if it is an intercaste marriage, if it is not an intercaste marriage also, many of the girls are not given a choice. And somewhere girls also follow that. But there are girls who are sticking out. And I have an example of a girl, young girl who was doing a commerce, who was doing her studies, and was also working as a domestic. I really marvel at her, and it's a lesson for all you girls. Because she did both. She was going for evening college, she was doing her commerce, and daytime she was working as a domestic worker. And it came a time when she finished graduation, and even towards finishing graduation, I don't know how many of your parents are breastfeeding you, but many parents, her parents were asking her, get married, get married. Why? Because society is saying so. I don't want to get married, I want to complete my studies, this is what she said. I want to complete my studies, I want to work, because I want to look after you. That didn't work. That didn't work. The parents said, no, you have to get married. So what she cleverly did, I mean, she would come every time telling me about this. I said, don't fight for now. Because you're not in a position, are you in a position to get out of home? You have every right as a major to get out from home. But you're not in a position. So you see what you can do. So what she did is, again, this kind of talk, discussion. So what is the principle I learned, which is very important for all of us, is negotiation. How do we negotiate our way through all this? So what she did is, she didn't keep them unhappy. She didn't shout back at them. She didn't fight. She said, anyway, if they bring boys, I'm going to say I don't like. At least she had that freedom. They were even threatening with taking her to the village if you don't agree. Okay, so she said, no, I want to work. I still want to go to college. So I will do that. So there was a cold war at home. No one was talking to her. Okay, she was not being given food. She made her own food and ate. She would go in the morning and give all her money to the parents because that's what she was wanting to. So anyway, this short example I'm just giving you to say that finally 3 years went by. She got away. She said till 25 I will not get married. And then you say what you want to say. So she negotiated away. Like Cold War happened. She didn't get out of the house. I told her unless there's physical violence, don't get out of the house. She didn't pack her bags and get ready to leave. She had no other boyfriend, which is normally the suspect. She had no other boy. So she went about her goal with focus, with negotiation. And finally, the parents were forced to listen to her. And then a sister got. So, what's the other argument given to us? Is that your sister's there waiting to get married. If you don't get married, she won't get married. She said, Arey Baab, let her get married, I'm not married. So she's negotiated this phase for 3 years, continuously up and down, up and down, up and down. That's the biggest challenge. That how do we negotiate a space for ourselves so that we can be confident on ourselves? That is the biggest challenge for all our girls. How are we confident about ourselves? Are we confident about our decisions? Are we confident about our own issues, about ourselves, about our self-esteem? Learn to love yourself.
That is absolutely very nice. It is such a beautiful success story. See, a young girl can find a space for herself to make her own decision. Why not we? So it is all we women who have to. No one should give you space. It is our space. It is our right. No one has to donate that to us. Whether it is a workspace, whether it is our own home or a society. That is absolutely such a nice, solution. The kid has, processed with your advice. Yeah, it is Herculean task. And as a, Gita madam, she has supported and handholded. Definitely there will be someone who will support all of us in this journey of finding our own space. That's really nice, Gita ma'am. Nice to hear that a success story of overcoming the barriers. Sometimes they are spoken, sometimes they are policies, sometimes it is pressurized. Okay, but we have to find the space for ourselves. Then let me just, speak to Sir, about how education and research should contribute towards this inclusivity. So, what are the stories or what are the statistics from the research which can focus on these areas of sensitive or important aspects?
Uh, in fact, outside education institutions have started moving towards this inclusiveness. Of course, gone were the times where education institutions were a bit hesitant to recruit the unmarried woman. Am I right? You know, for the obvious reasons. If we recruit them within 1 year, she will get married, and within another 1 year, she will get conceived. Okay, so and so, so and so. So where do we waste our money right now? Okay, but now things are changing. It's where things are changing. But I'm talking about Tamil scenario. I happened to meet so many women leaders who are at the head of the affairs in education institutions. Okay. So in that way, the things are completely changing. That's one. The second one, of course, there should be a genuine commitment from the top leadership, be it an education institution or be it a corporate. When there is a genuine commitment from the leadership, definitely things will fall in line. I would like to put a couple of examples here. One is, of course, this is from the corporate side. You know a popular brand called Shakti Masala. Okay. Shakti Masala is from my region. She knows better. I don't call it as a regional brand. I don't call it as a national brand. I call it as a global brand. When I visited Boston, I could see Shakti Masala. Okay, so that is the kind of market they have captured. And you know, 60 to 70 percentage of their employees are persons with a disability. Persons with a disability, and they are the market leaders. They are the market leaders as far as spices industry is concerned. How would they make it? Phenomenal. So this is what I call it as a genuine commitment from the top leadership. Okay. If that happens, things will change. Of course, a lot of research has already started going on. Another big challenge, you posed that question to Gita. Another big challenge, this incident, of course, when I started doing some research with reference to this particular conference topic, I came across. It happened in 2017, I believe. Yeah, 2017. There is a company called Culture Mission, a media company based out of India, and they are the first one to come out with menstrual holiday. Okay, they introduced it in July 2017. They also introduced something called FOP, first day of their period, they can avail leave. They can avail it. Okay? Of course, subsequently, Mathrubhumi started following, some of the educational institutions started following. We are also seriously thinking on, okay, probably, I will put it in place within a couple of months from the next academic year onwards. We are trying to implement at our own institution. But do you know where did the resistance come from for this policy? Not from the men, from the women. From the women, the resistance came in. Okay, some of them who are not in a position to avail this leave, they resisted it. They resisted it, but company stuck to its views. Company stuck to its views, and they set an example to the rest of the people. And so many institutions they have started following up. Okay, so this resistance should go away from our mind. So persons with a disability are not the ones who are physically handicapped. Those who are having this kind of mindset, I call them as disabled people.
Very nice views. Sir, one more extension of the existing question on the down. See, there is a lot of social and economical barriers. Can we penetrate this kind of value system in our curriculum so that we can change the perspective of the
Exactly.
whole society or
True, true. Two things which are dominating the education space now. One is sustainability. Okay, we have started including sustainability courses in every specialization, every aspects of the management education. The second one, of course, inclusivity. In fact, we have introduced a paper on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is not being handled by our faculty. This is going to be handled by people from the industry, like Lalita ma'am. Okay, they are going to come and handle this paper. Okay. So that is the way the institutions have started looking at it. Again, um, of course, as I said, I visited Academy, one of the premier business schools. There is a chair at TAY Center for Inclusive Growth and Competitiveness. They have a dedicated center which is into academics, which is into research. That is the way education institutions have started including inclusivity in their curriculum.
That's very nice to hear, sir. And that is what is the need of the society or a special sector side. That's nice. Sir.
When
Nice to
these
hear.
future managers move to the corporate with this positive mindset, they can bring in a lot more changes, sweeping changes.
Definitely. That's really great to hear, sir, that it is included in the curriculum as well as it is a separate cell as such to function to make the things happen in a better way. That's great to hear, sir. Now let me just move to Lalita ma'am. Most of the women sector or employees face there is a gender discrimination in the organization. There is a pay discrimination in the organization, and when we climb the ladder, there are a lot of barriers posed by many bodies in the organization. So, what are the policies that the organization is practicing in order to overcome these challenges and make way for a woman for their own space or for their own rights?
So the picture from where my co-panelist also made a mention in this previous conversation, saying that generally organizations or corporate never used to hire unmarried women, right? There's a small shift here, sir. Now what happens is the span of attention to any particular job is nowadays with the youngsters not more than 2 to 3 years, unless and until they have a passion to pursue in the organization. So what happens is organizations and corporates are willing to hire freshers, female freshers, knowing that by the time they get married it's going to be another 2 years. After that they hire only. Okay? And then there is another part of the section which is people who are married, already have children, they have better opportunities for being considered. The people in between just married, right? Or the people where they have a lot of constraints in being admitted or getting into any job opportunities. They might be called for an interview. You will also be wondering many ladies. If you speak to some lady colleagues of yours, you will know that they did the interview is fantastic, but they didn't get the job opportunity. It is basically a bias that is there in the organization. Many corporates have that. They feel it's because of this biological intervention that they have to go through, right? Although the government of India has brought in this maternity act, how many organizations are willing to follow that? Right? Unless it's a big conglomerates or big MNCs, they have more than those who they adapt these kind of acts and follow this. Even because it's an act, it's mandatory, they accept it and they allow the ladies to go on 6 months maternity. But in what we've done is we have included this act. At the same time, we go one more step beyond that. In first place, what we do is we educate our managers, like I already said, it's important to have equal number of job applications from women, that is point number one. And then we say give them additional, let's say, target to hire women. So what we do is you need to have at least 30 to 40% of women in your department. This is some mandate we have to do. It's a post mandate, but it works quite well. Because once the women come into the organization, they realize that the value of having women, a mixed diverse group in any department is much better because already the keynote letter is also, our distinguished panel is also there. There is data which proves that companies which have diverse workforce, especially women, they do have profitability which is 15% more. Right? It's a proven data. It's not that, I'm citing the women, it's just that they bring in different perspectives. purchasing power of women is much greater compared to the male colleagues. And in organizations like big corporate, any corporate for that matter, women lose out on promotions, right? Because of the bias that exists there. Promotions or increment. Today there is a big gender pay gap that is already existing. But in organizations like Bosch, we are a little forward thinking, so we have put policies in place to mandate it. Now recently, until 2 years back, this gender pay was something which has been prevailing for decades now, but nobody will bother to talk about it. Since 2 years, SEBI has mandated it, saying that they've identified 1,000 companies in the country, saying that they have to report ESG, that is environmental, social governance, and business responsibilities and sustainability reporting which has to be done. In this, what happens is the company has to disclose the pay or the wages of the women versus the male colleagues. So if there is a huge disparity, then there is some sort of intervention that's going to come. But companies are racing against each other to equalize this, so, which means it's becoming more and more transparent. So at the end of the day, it is just because somebody has mandated to the top only then people are trying to do it. But if that's the way we have to do it, we have to do it. But we have policies surrounding all this.
That's good to hear the transformation in the organization. Then is
I just thought of sharing this example to you. I know I am from Coimbatore. There is an organization called KPRX, KPRX, and a silent revolution has been happening for decades together. Normally, this gentleman used to employ only the plus two girls. So he goes down south in Tamil Nadu, where the poverty is more. So he employs all the girl students who have just completed plus two, and he brings all the people here. And right from day one, they'll be trained on everything, and they're also well paid. And out of their salary, 10 to 15%, he takes it away and puts it in a savings bank account kind of. Okay. He knows pretty well these girls are not going to stick to him for a longer time. For him, the time limit is 4 years. Be with us for 4 years. Okay. And he has also tied up with a university called Alagappa University so that these people can do their undergraduation. And some of them they have also done their post graduation too. So 4 years down the line, a huge chunk of savings, they can get married and they can leave if they want. They can leave if they want. Okay? And it will be amazing to know. So for 26,000 women employees, they got benefited out of him. And all these 26,000 women, they call him Appa. He is a father to 26,000 women. That is the revolution that is happening in the corporate sector. I love it.
that is awesome, sir. That is awesome. That is what is a contribution to the society. That's too good to hear and inspiring too. Now, I just move towards work-life balance in the corporate sector. The field faces very different challenges, whether it is emotional, physical, or societal. So, how do you manage at workplace to overcome these kind of challenges, maybe mental, psychological, or physical in the organization?
Yeah, this is true. It's not only in the corporate sector, it's there in every sector. But what we try to do is we try to elevate this a little bit. We do have social counselors in every campus, it's a mandate. And we are focusing more on mental health. This is the keyword after COVID, post-COVID era. So we do have enough counselors in the campus when people are available, and then we also have set up helplines with big organizations for EAP. So when people don't want to go and meet in person, the counselors and they have emotional issues to tackle with, they can do some online counseling, all that is happening. These are some infrastructure which we are trying to provide. But at the end of the day, unless the people are, willing to come forward and discuss this and seek help, we are also clueless on how to help them out. But some small measures we put policies in place, and especially women who return from maternity, right? They have big challenges because they have a small baby, and what the government act gives is only 6 months of maternity leave, which is a fully paid leave. So Bosch went a really one more step beyond that, and we have included saying that whether 6 months and individuals, the females can take, but in this case, what happens is the first 6 months is the government regulated one, whereas they get a good salary. The additional 6 months, we need 40% of the salary. They don't need to come to us. But if somebody still wants to come to work because they need a 100% of the salary, we give them an option to work from home for the next 6 months, provided that work that they are, supposed to be doing is possible to be done. Because somebody is in the plant, right, on manufacturing, that cannot be done from home. So in such cases, we tell them take unpaid leave. So these are the various other policies, yeah, for not necessarily created the organization to support that. And we give a hybrid working, right? It's 2 or 3 days in a week you can work from home. It's up to the manager to regulate that. We have policies for surrounding all this. And if somebody, has a person at home, very ill, old age people, for example, they may have aging parents or grandparents who they need to take care of. In such scenario, what happens is we do have a policy wherein we give them some sabbatical. They can go on sabbatical leave without pay up to the job that when they come back. They can take 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months leave to take care of that. We have had people take up the sabbatical first week of August. Somebody wanted a break from this corporate stress, right? And somebody wanted to pursue a passion of music, wanted to learn music. He took 6 months sabbatical leave. And all our policies are different, including the POSH Act, which is the Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace. It's just not only for women, it's a gender neutral one because it can be on the other side as well. Even male colleagues can be sexually harassed by female colleagues. So Bosch is very, very particular on having all policies gender neutral.
That's very good to hear. How about reintegration of